Hey everybody, this is Professor Jason Snart. I'll be your instructor for our English 1102 online class here in the second 8-week semester at COD. And I do a bunch of these kind of video check-in or announcement things or whatever you want to call them throughout the semester, or at least our half semester, just kind of as a way of replacing a little bit at least that face-to-face connection that we lose, obviously, because we're just entirely online. So hopefully these help give you a sense that there's actually like a human being over here who can respond to questions or concerns that you have, and obviously who's reading your work and providing feedback and all that kind of stuff. So the good news or the bad news is there's more of these to come. You can decide which one. And I'm looking at my screen here because I'm going to pop into our course and just say a couple of quick things here. The first is, and I'm just going to go into our due dates link here, is that the nature of online is it's not self-paced where you're just kind of working alone at your own pace through all of this stuff. Pardon me. But we don't obviously have that sense of meeting in a class on a regular basis, so it becomes really important that you do take individual responsibility for making sure that you're checking into Blackboard pretty much every day. You don't need to spend a lot of time every day in there, but just to see if there's a new announcement like this, or if things have changed a little bit, or if there's work you need to submit or feedback that you're receiving from previous work. There's just a lot going on, so it is important that you check in pretty much every day just to see what's happening. The due dates for our class are pretty straightforward here. Hopefully the first one is coming up already, Tuesday, March 15th. And then we move quickly on to Unit 2, which is due Thursday, March 17th. You'll notice that the due dates get a little more spaced out as we move through the course a little bit later, but a lot of the first units are just introductory orientation kinds of things that we want to move through pretty quickly. So you really need to be on the ball as far as checking in regularly, reading things carefully, because again, there's not a lot of face-to-face time that we have. So it's really incumbent on you to make sure you're understanding the requirements and the policies for the class and just that whole ball of wax, okay? The second thing, and it sort of exacerbates the first, is that obviously we're in an 8-week time frame here, which means that literally we're doing the same 16-week course in half the time. So what we would normally have a week to work on, let's say, you literally have half that much time. And then the turnaround for the next unit is twice as fast as well. So we really do move pretty quickly. So those two pieces really go together. You need to be on top of things as far as reading carefully, understanding the course policies, and really be conscious that we move quickly. And the last thing you want to do is get behind, partly because in a lot of cases late work isn't accepted, so you're just losing points that way. And also because in cases where you are trying to make up work or doing things at the last minute, it always has a negative effect on the product, on the work that you're doing, and of course then the grade that you're going to get. So that's the first sort of warning, or double warning if you want. The next thing that I want to sort of talk to you about is this overarching idea to keep in the back of your mind for our class, really for any kind of class, but for the work that you're doing specifically here. If you take, let's say, a math class or a history class or something where there's a lot of sort of factual material that you just sort of learn, like information, so somebody was born and died on a certain day, or the battle of whatever took place in 1867. You go to class, or even if you're online, you learn that material, and then you take a test that says the battle of so-and-so was, and then you fill in the date. And it's either right or wrong, or it's sort of black and white that way. So there's a clear connection between the coursework side, whether it's online or face-to-face or whatever, and then the assessment side, the test that you're doing. So your professor, your instructor, has this pretty clear way of knowing whether the student, you, has learned that material or not. Are you, as a student, giving those correct answers on the assessment? And that doesn't matter if the assessment is an exam or a quiz or whatever it is. There's this clear kind of connection. I think oftentimes what happens for students, even though it's a really simple concept, is they sort of forget that in cases where, like in an English class, there's no test where you're filling in the blank as like the major exam that you're doing. We do quizzes and stuff, but the major work that we do as far as the assessment side is obviously essay writing. But sometimes students forget that that equation between coursework and assessment is still exactly the same. So we cover content in the various units that we're doing. There's ideas that we talk about, certain kinds of like formatting issues with MLA citation. There's a lot of material we cover, and you have to be really conscious in the essays that you're writing. Are you as the student showing me as the instructor in that assessment that you've learned the course material? In other words, try to think of that equation between coursework and assessment in our English class the same way you would for like a math or history class. There's really clear content that you learn. You show that you've learned that content through the exams that you do. It's not as like black and white as just filling in a date, for example, but there's still everything that we cover in class, even if it's online like we are, is what I'm looking for to be reflected back in those essays. So really try to think about that as a sort of overarching idea as we move through all of the 8 weeks of our course. So as you do the units, don't just think of it as a unit and then you're done and then you move on to the next thing. Think of it as material you're learning in the course that you want to then reflect back in the essay side. And of course, that's how I grade essays. I look, has this student learned and is now showing me the concepts or the ideas or the citation formatting that we've learned throughout the units that we've done. There's also a lot of things in our course like basic examples that you're following. There's sample essays in our book that you can read. There's sample essays that are provided in our course. There's examples of MLA citation. So in a lot of cases, you're not just inventing the wheel from scratch here. You really are trying to follow those examples. You're not copying, obviously, but you are producing essays that, sound and look very similar. They're similar in scope. They might cover totally different, short stories, for example, but they're still going to sort of sound that academic tone. So again, when we do a unit that involves a sample essay, one of the things I'm looking for in your essays is, has that student understood that this example is the kind or the style or the scope or the approach and all that stuff that we're looking for? Or is your essay something completely different? In which case I'm seeing it's like 2 + 2 = 4. That's what we learn. And then I say 2 + 2 = and you fill in, pi, something like that. It just shows that you haven't got the course content. So again, really try to coordinate coursework with assessment, even if the assessment for us isn't just a fill in the blank kind of thing. It's that more traditional, English essay that you're writing. Okay, so anyway, a really cheery start to our class, right? But always, if you have questions or concerns or even IT issues going on, be sure to be in contact with me, as well as the student help desk, especially for those IT issues. But I will do my best to get back to you, within the day, if it's reasonable for me to do that. By all means, email is the best way. I provided my Skype contact for people who use Skype and want to do it that way. So there's lots of ways to get a hold of me. Okay, so I'm a real person here. Feel free to be in touch with me with, again, questions, concerns. Even if you're 100 or 99% sure that you've got things right and you just want to kind of lock it in, by all means do that. I will see everybody again pretty soon.